Good evening, everybody. We'll call to order the May 10th, 2017 meeting of the Ascension Zoning Commission. All members are present. Item number 3 on the agenda is an acceptance of the minutes and written decisions of the April 12th, 2017 meeting. Before I ask for a motion on that, I think we need to amend the minutes to somewhat. It is listed as the present individual commissioners were Mr. Bishop, Mr. Chasson, Mr. Christie, Mr. Scheck-Snyder, and Mr. Furman. Absent were Mr. Pryor and Mr. Dumas. I believe Mr. Chasson was not here, correct? So we'll need to amend that to list Mr. Chasson as being absent. Do I have a motion on that? Made by Mr. Chasson himself, second by Mr. Christie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none. And then can I get a motion on the amended minutes?
Make a motion to approve the amended minutes.
Motion by Mr. Scheck-Snyder, second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, moving on to item number 4, Chairman's comments. The Chair has no comments tonight on zoning issues. Item number 5, public hearing to amend the Ascension Parish Development Code for recommendation for the approval or denial to the Ascension Parish Council of 5A zoning review ID PZ 1263.172 for Connie Edmondson, located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 73, approximately 200 feet south of Post Office Road, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential RM to mixed use 2 MU2. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. My name is Connie Edmonston. I represent myself and my 4 siblings, who are 2 of which are here, along with our spouses. The other 2 are out of state or out of town, live residentially out. Thank you for allowing us to come back this month and have our zoning changed from MU to MU2. We weren't familiar with the difference in the types of business that could be, or commercial that could be done on the MU, so that's why we wanted to change it. We want to keep this neighborhood as low-key as possible, but with the amount of commercial zone properties near us, adjacent to us, it would be nearly impossible to sell it staying residential. My 4 siblings and I, have only known one homestead, and it is the property at 15478 Highway 73. We care about our neighbors and the neighborhood. It is located on the east side of Highway 73, where many other properties have already been zoned commercial. And I'm not talking about the west side of Highway 73, which I know are almost all residential. We understand that, but none of us, it appears, can stop progress. Currently, there's a commercial property between Post Office Road and the railroad track on 73. It's currently under development. I'm thinking that that may have been the last property that was zoned commercial. We didn't have anything to do with those properties being zoned commercial. That all happened without our say-so or knowledge. But before we knew it, everywhere around us were businesses coming up. Again, on the east side of Highway 73, it's almost 100% commercial in that area, with the exception of Seven Oaks subdivision. From Airline to St. John Church on 73, there's a cemetery, Seven Oaks, and commercial except for me and one other residence, and the other residence is actually here. He doesn't want to speak, but he also would maybe in the future want to zone his property commercial also. And everything all the way to Airline is already zoned commercial. At last month's meeting, I read off a significant number of commercial businesses located along Highway 73 and also up and down Post Office Road. It just emphasized how many businesses are in this condensed area. Now we're in a situation where our parents have passed away and we have inherited the property. There are 5 of us, and we feel pretty much forced to sell it, as none of us are interested in living there because of the high traffic and the red light being right on that corner. Again, I'll say that we have 2 access to the property, both on Post Office Road and Highway 73. We're pretty certain no one else would want to buy that as residential because of the, just the commercial use and the traffic and everything there. It is a beautiful piece of property, but unfortunately not for residential use anymore. So we feel that we have no choice but to request that it be zoned commercial so that we have a chance to sell it at some decent price, since there are 5 of us to split. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Staff?
Staff, this is a tough one, but staff recommends MU2 may be an option for the petition property of this area. So,
What's right next to it on Post Office Road? What's that? That's
Tyra's
no,
Automotive.
no, I know. What's the zoning on that side of
Oh,
Post
sorry.
Office Road?
On which side?
there's property, hold on a second.
Going down on the same side of Post Office Road, it looks like it's pretty dark red.
Yeah, it's MU2. On Post Office Road is MU2 all
So
the way
it'd
there.
be consistent with them, it'd be consistent with everything else on Post Office Road and slightly inconsistent on Highway 73.
Correct, yes, sir.
All right, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing on this. Ms. Patrice, has anybody signed up to speak? Mr. Duhan, and I would ask everybody, please remember the 3 minutes. We want to give you all an opportunity to speak and keep the meeting moving, please.
Commissioner, members of the commission, how are y'all? I have a map I'd like to put up on the overhead. How do I do that?
You're up there.
Okay. This is an average daily traffic count from the LADOTD website, and it's done every 3 years, going back to 2001. In 2001, there were 13,000 cars daily going from interstate to airline highway. During the 5 years of construction, the volume went down for obvious reasons. Since construction has been completed, there will not be another car count or daily count till 2019. So the last count of 2016 shows 21,329 cars daily on this road. And Highway 73 is a connector road between 2 main corridors, north-south and east-west, Highway 61 and Interstate Highway. Also a main connector from Airline down to River Road, which is home of a lot of plants. There's many areas which are been commercialized and zoned commercial for obvious reasons. With progress comes change, and the parish can only increase their tax revenue by increasing properties that are already commercial, areas that are already being zoned commercial. And just to have little pockets of residential is not maximizing the tax that the parish can take in. The reason I'm here is I'm speaking on behalf of the Edmiston family. My mother-in-law lived across the street from her, and she spoke of her, Miss Lenore, very fondly, and how she used to run a business out of her home, and she was a hairstylist. So she, too, had a commercial license on that property. So that's an existing use of the property as commercial. So with that said, that shows that that is a feasible thing, a feasible possibility. And I just wanted to present some facts and numbers just to kind of substantiate why one would want to understand a 50-mile-an-hour zone, which is still residential for those people, but that flow of traffic, and an estimated, I would guess, at least 23,000 cars a day. And that's from the LADOTD. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
James Kennison?
My name is James Kinnison. My wife's name is Winifred Revo Kinnison. She grew up right across the street from Mr. and Ms. Webb's place. We bought the family property from the family when her mother and father passed away. We actually put in a little road there called Revo Lane. It goes from Highway 73 back about a quarter of a mile. And on that piece of property, we have two sons that are living there, got a nephew that lives there, a granddaughter that lives there, and another granddaughter who is in the process, we're in the process of refinishing a house for her. So we've got 5 families that live there. My wife and I both knew Miss Lenora Webb and her husband Elton. We don't really feel comfortable objecting to this, but the problem is, once this is sold commercial, they move away, or they already have moved away, and the property becomes zoned, and we have, the people who still live in that area have to live with the consequences. If that was the only piece of property that was going to be rezoned from the railroad track all the way to Dutchtown, we wouldn't have any problem with that. But the problem is, once you start with one, right down the street, somebody else will want one. So I disagree with one of the things that gentleman just said. I don't live in Ascension Parish because I think the businesses here should contribute more money to the parish council. I live in Ascension Parish because I grew up here. And so I think the residents has a greater priority than all these businesses that he thinks wants to come in here. So I disagree with that. If you look at a zoning map from Post Office Road, the property we're talking about actually is on the corner of Post Office Road and 73. And if you take from there, it's with only 1 or 2 exceptions, it's blue from there all the way to the Prairieville Fire Station at Miller Road. So what we're talking about doing now is taking on 73 specifically and putting a red marker which says this lot is commercial and everything else is still residential. Again, if that was the only one y'all were going to do, it'd be fine. But that's not the way y'all work. So I feel that this request for zoning should be declined. Thank you.
Vice Cox?
Thank you, gentlemen. I, too, with Mr. Kenneth, I live down Aliceboro Lane, by the way, which is across the street, kind of catty-cornered from subject property. And with Mr. Kennison, I also agree that I think it should be declined for a couple of reasons, and without being redundant. One of the things that I disagree with that was said by the gentleman that came up before Mr. Kennison was that there was an existing commercial license there. Well, I haven't been on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know for a fact that it was not grandfathered in. That business hadn't been run there, I think, since I've been living down Aliceboro Lane, which is about 33 years. And because of that reason, I think they would have been grandfathered in. Okay, had there been a commercial business there. The other reason I disagree with it is that there's a high level of traffic, as he stated. There is a high level of traffic there. What comes with high traffic? A lot more accidents. We experience wrecks there at least once or twice a week, it seems like. I don't know the actual fact, but it seems like that there about once or twice a week that there is a accident, and we can hear the sirens and stuff down the road. For that reason, I disagree with it being commercial. There's been some homesteads that have been there for 80-something years, okay? And if you look at Highway 73 from Post Office Road, the only thing that's not commercial all the way back to, I think it's Village Grocery, okay, is the cemetery and the Catholic Church, which the Catholic Church has been there for 70, 80 years. I'm not sure exactly how long. But it's all residential all the way down with that exception. The other side is all residential, all the way back to the railroad tracks with the exception of the concrete plant, which is right adjacent to the railroad track. Somebody once said one time that Highway 73 was the Highland Road of Baton Rouge. And that's why it didn't go 4-lane, it went 3-lane, because they wanted to keep the aesthetics looks of it. There is some beautiful oak trees on the property. I know what's gonna happen to them if it becomes commercial. They're gonna take them down, and I just don't wanna see those type of things happen. So with all due respect, gentlemen, oh, and the last thing is y'all did deny one straight across the street. About August or September of last year, y'all turned them down. So with all due respect, I suggest that we decline it.
Thank you, sir.
David Wu.
I have properties that diagonally across from this property we're talking about. The house faces Highway 73. Actually, my address is Aliceboro Lane because that's where the driveway is. I also have another piece of property that's connected to mine, which has another house on it. I don't have much time, but I've got about 7 reasons here that I want to go over why I think it's a good idea to rezone this area. Of course, some of them have been mentioned before, but the traffic, that's actually too much traffic at this particular intersection. Just like Mr. Cox mentioned a while ago, within the last about 10-day period, they had 3 wrecks there that I was aware of. There might have been more. Later on, there's going to be a school opening further south. Let's put more traffic on that road. There was mentioned that complex that's being developed there. There'll be more traffic. So here we have a bad intersection, and we have trying to get more business in that little tight area. But also mentioned the beauty of the parish. This is probably one of the most picturesque roads in our parish that goes down here with the beautiful live oak trees, St. John Church, and some other beautiful homes there. And Post Office Road should be a good line of demarcation from commercial to residential. On the left side of it, you have commercial. Now we start the residential all the way to the directions that these other people have mentioned. And next thing is encroachment into a residential zone mentioned. Once you start that one, then you're going to go down the line, and then you go down the line to the next one. So you no longer have a nice residential area there. And then I'm going to mention something about history of denial along Highway 73 between this location and Prairieville Fire Station. Property in front of Longwood subdivision, denied. Intersection of Highway 73 and White Road, denied. Intersection of Highway 73 and Aliceboro, which is across the road, denied. So why not deny the one that's coming up? Why start a new one? And also, this is prime residential land in this area. It's very beautiful land with large live oak trees. Most of these trees have been there before the electricity was put out there, and I can prove that to you. Plus, it didn't flood our land. And it's absolutely no benefit to the parish or the community to have a small portion of land changed to commercial. This would hurt the community itself as we see it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman
Gentlemen, as I'm sure you realize, we have zoning rules and regulations for a reason, to guide where residential, commercial, and other land uses should go. Indeed, despite its limitations, land use zoning is the standardized method used all across the United States to make sure that people don't make ill-advised decisions about where to locate certain businesses and their residences. For homeowners like Mr. Oob, who just spoke, Mr. Cox, Mr. Kennison, and others in the area of Highway 73 that have called me but are not here tonight, a prime reason that land use guidance is important to them is obvious, but let me state it. They want to preserve their property values and the quality of life that might otherwise significantly decline if undesirable businesses or even non-noxious ones are allowed to pop up in this primarily residential neighborhood. And that's reasonable, I think. In addition, there are negative impacts owing primarily to the increased traffic that businesses bring from their added employees and customers and so forth. And we all know that traffic is already a nightmare on Highway 73. In fact, I'm a bit surprised tonight that we don't see a bunch of, quote, "Pray for me, I drive 73" signs in chambers. I also wish to remind everyone here tonight that in general, zoning laws represent the constitutional exercise of our local governing authority's state-mandated police power, which we have relegated to you guys by appointment, to protect public health, safety, and welfare. Highway 73 is already unsafe. I don't think that's even arguable. Even after its recent widening by this third lane, a roadway that has now been dubbed the suicide lane by locals who are forced to travel it daily. Gentlemen, I want to commend this commission for doing the right thing recently when this body recommended denial of the SPUD proposal rezoning from RM to MU and Highway 73 right down from this currently proposed site. That SPUD involved a similar rezoning request. I thank you as well for denying the residential to commercial rezoning of the property across from Mr. Oob. At the corner, he spoke about this of Alice Bro Lane and Highway 73 that occurred even before the SPUD request. And of course, he even listed yet another. These correct decisions have not only set appropriate precedents for what you need to do tonight, but I assure you, gentlemen, they go far in stopping the, quote, death by 1,000 paper cuts to residents who live off of Highway 73, who have already had to endure far too many previous knee-jerk rezoning approvals that have resulted in their roadway becoming what I would call traffic jam city. I'll leave you with a final thought. Where will Ascension Parish be if we keep approving all residential to commercial rezoning requests, spot zoning and otherwise, in the name of increasing commerce in our tax base? Why not rezone all residentially zoned property to MU so that we will all own real estate of greater value? I think you know the reason why, gentlemen. Our residents deserve quality of life too. Please give that to them. I thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That's it. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this. Before I open it up for other comments, I'll say my piece on this. And the history that was quoted is correct. This commission, for the last couple of years, has been very reticent to grant any zoning requests along this area of Highway 73, particularly on the west side of it, where it is primarily residential. I think, and I would say this, I think this emphasizes the need for a new and comprehensive land use plan, because Highway 73 has become, for one reason or another, a hybrid of activities with commercial interspersed with residential, that really, to a large extent, there's not many homes that live right off of Highway 73, although there's some that certainly back up to it and quickly back into commercial, all in that corridor between airline and the interstate. And I think that emphasizes the need of, part of land use planning is where are we going to direct growth and how we're going to get it where it needs to be, where we want it to be. And that comes with a land use plan that is comprehensive and addresses all issues, including where to direct growth and how to meet the transportation and other infrastructure needs that go along with that growth. And it's for that reason, my inclination initially is to look at it and say, well, we shouldn't do anything until we get that land use plan in place. That being said, this property butts up to Post Office Road, which if you took the intersection out of it and just looked at Post Office Road, it would be a spot zoned residential lot on Post Office Road where everything else is mixed use. You turn down Highway 73 southbound, and it becomes an extension of commercial land, if it got approved, extension of commercial land into a residential area. And I would be very, I can't say what would happen in the future, but if we did recommend approval of this, I don't see that this would open the floodgates because of the history of this. I think this is a special case because of its attachment to Post Office Road where it is mixed use. But there are a lot of concerns with that, which the primary one that I'd like to see is a brand new comprehensive land use plan so we can get these issues addressed and determine once and for all how Highway 73 is going to look and what needs to be done, because it certainly, the history is it was residential for a long period of time, and it is a beautiful stretch of roadway. There are a lot of trees. It is very shady. It can compare to Highland Road, except for the fact that you drive a mile down the road and there's a bunch of commercial traffic going on that. So that being said, I will open it up to other comments by the commission. Or,
I just have a quick question. Is this all one parcel of land, or is it more than one parcel?
No, sir, it's one parcel.
One parcel?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Mr. Chair.
what is the, excuse me, what is the, there looks like some development right behind it, east of it, between that piece of property and where Seven Oaks comes around. What is that?
That is condominiums.
Residential.
Residential condominiums? Okay.
Yes, sir, residential condominiums.
Mr. Schickson.
I've gone out to that area, and I have spoke to a few of the residents of that, of that area, and I had some concerns. I understand right now it is zoned residential. We do have what looks to be 2 residences on that one strip, 2 households with, that are operating. If you look 2 lots south, they have a for sale sign that is said that it's zoned commercial, but it's not showing commercial. So that does concern me.
Advertising issues there. It sounds like.
And that's kind of what I'm wondering is this just, your goal is to sell this just to get some extra money out of it? And I can understand because of, you've inherited this. That is a concern of mine, because if it is kept as residential, you might be told that this land is essentially worthless. So that does concern me, and I think that's something that we need to consider.
And if that's the case, and I think one of the things, I think if that is the case, it's because it is all the property to the east of it and to the north of it on the east side of 73 is commercial property, all the way up to airline. So
I was, reason why I asked if it was 2 parcels, because it's got 2 homes on it. And
There's only one home.
It's two buildings.
there's 2 structures on it.
Ms. Edmondson, can you answer that question for us? You can come up, ma'am.
The other home is on the next property.
Is there 2 buildings on this land or 1?
There are 2 buildings. The smaller building closer to Post Office Road, my mom ran a beauty shop from 1969 to 2007, and I believe the license that Mr. Duhan was referring to was she had a license as a licensed beautician, cosmetologist license. She didn't, so I guess it was, I guess she was grandfathered in to run that business, but it was from 69 to 2007.
So that building, it was her.
So
her
it is
salon.
still just a shut-down beauty salon.
Do we have any?
There is no one living
recollection-
on it, so to speak.
Excuse me, Ms. Edmond, do you have a history on that, Lance? Did
Yeah,
she-
it was a beauty salon.
Was it?
It was there
licensed
prior
in-
to zoning, and it was probably the time that Ms. Edmondson stated. So I know, I used to bring my grandmother there, so I know. It was there.
It predated zoning.
It did, it predated zoning.
So it would have been, until she shut down, that would have been a pre-existing, non-conforming use of the land that was in fact what was going on at that property, which is what they want to
Correct.
get approved.
Yes,
right
sir,
now.
but it's been closed for
10
many
years.
years. Yes, sir, so it converts to its
Yeah,
conforming.
Ms.
So, yes, sir.
And, Mr. Chair, the reason why I prompted me to ask about the 2 parcels is because I can almost support the corner piece, half the property at the corner. It makes sense, continue the frontage on Post Office, end it at 73 and be done with it. It troubles me to start heading south on 73. So I could support that portion of the property to the north of the condominium parcel at the corner, but I struggle with a piece that comes south on 73, because I clearly understand, and there is a need to preserve that residential corridor to the extent possible. That road doesn't need any more traffic. And
And I think, not to cut you off, but you sounded like you were trailing off, but I think it's kind of becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, because as she stated, Mr. Nguyen is here, who owns an adjacent property, who didn't want to speak, but apparently has thoughts of selling his as commercial once hers gets rezoned. And then the one next to it, which on here is listed as the I'm guessing the Kendrick property, already has a for sale sign saying it's commercial, even though it's not. So now all of a sudden you've already up to Seven Oaks. And then,
Well, but that's assuming, and I would just say this, I don't disagree with anything that Mr. Dumas said, but I do disagree with the premise that if we did recommend this piece, that it automatically opens the floodgates to Seven Oaks, because, and I would say, if it weren't for Post Office Road being right there, I would stick to what we have done before, and I would say to the council, we need a new land use development plan, and until we get that in, we need to leave everything as is. The problem that I have is that, and I'm more comfortable, I think, than you are, Mr. Dumas, about extending it 200 feet down 73, because you're losing, I mean, that intersection of Post Office Road, that's not a commercial intersection, or that's not a residential intersection on that side of Highway 73. Nobody's going to build well, I wouldn't say that, but I would say I'd be surprised if somebody built a house there and said, this is going to be my home right on this corner. I mean, that's just not going to happen, I don't think. Or I think the chances are very slim, and that's where I would stand on that. So.
but the bulk of the frontage faces 73.
Right.
And so then, once that becomes commercial, then Mr. Nguyen comes here and says, well, I've abut a commercial space, so now my property is worthless. And then Mr. Kendrick comes in, who's got a really nice-sized piece of property, it looks like. That's
further
deep,
back.
and extends
Yeah,
further
but that-
back and says, well, now my piece is worthless. And that's my
So
concern.
we review all that.
Yeah. But that corner portion of the property, becomes marketable even to adjacent property owners who may want to expand their business or or need additional parking for their business or something like that. So I just think that,
But there was a reason why it was set at Post Office Road to start the residential zoning. And on your zoning maps, if you look at it, that is set as residential all the way to, I don't know how far down, 73. And I think that's, the reason for that is, once you start it, then you bring in potential investors. It doesn't open a floodgate, I don't agree with that, but you'll have investors who will go to the next property and try to add that to it, and go to the next property, try to add that to it. And yeah, they'll come before us, we can deny them, I guess, but I think you just setting a bad precedent.
Well, I would say this, if the property were partitioned along that line, and I don't know what the foot distance is, but if it were partitioned off north of the condominium portion from 73 up to Post Office Road, if that was the only piece of property we'd be looking at, I'd be calling that spot zoning, to have that residential corner there where everything else
I
is
would
around.
too. That's why I'm saying, I don't know if it's possible to make a recommendation to split the zoning on the property, since that's what was advertised, but
I don't think that's on the menu.
No.
it's not on the menu, but
We can't do that.
I will tell you that, to me, that would be
And
an
I will say this.
easy recommendation.
I will say this, we also, I don't remember exactly what other property that we considered, but I know it was up in this area. And we held fast to a line on the west side of 73 and said, that's the line. We're not extending that line any further.
Let's just cut a corner from this parcel.
Yeah. And we didn't extend that line, even though it was, it's just a little bit more. We didn't extend that line. I just don't think that it creates a precedent. I think this is an exception to what we've done in the past because of its frontage on Post Office Road, which is, I don't know how many feet it is, but it's whatever it is. I mean, that's why I would say this is an exception to what we've done in the past.
The total frontage on 73 looks to me like it's approximately 450, 500 feet,
It's 200 feet south of Post Office Road.
not the whole thing. I was looking at the survey on the other back, just a portion that's next to the condo looks to be 200 feet.
Well,
Just
the
a portion
description
on the
is
condo.
it's located on the east side of 73, approximately 200 feet south of Post Office Road. So,
Yeah.
all right.
What's on the corner?
That being said, do we have, now, All of that being said, whatever we do here tonight is just a recommendation one way or the other. The council gets to make the final decision on that. So do we have a motion to recommend approval or denial?
I'll make a motion to recommend denial to the council.
All right, so we have a motion to recommend denial of the rezoning proposition. Do I have a second by Mr.
Second.
Chasson? Second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition?
Me.
All right, so we will go with a roll call vote. Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
A yes vote means we are going to recommend denial of the rezoning.
Right.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
No.
Mr. Christie?
Yes.
Mr. Chasson?
Yes.
Mr. Schexnayder?
Yes.
All right, the ayes have it on a count of 5-1, so the motion to deny is, the motion to recommend denial is approved. Moving on to 5B, zoning review ID PZ 1287.17, tract .570 acres for Rebecca Denise Crafas. This is located on the northeast corner of Louisiana Highway 621, Canty Road and Roddy Road to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential RM to mixed-use 2. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I would like to see if I could get this zone, please, to MU2.
And you're planning to put a snowball stand up on that?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? All right. Staff?
Staff recommends to deny the mixed-use 2 as requested based on existing zoning of medium-intensity residential surrounding all properties in the area.
All right. We'll go ahead and open a public hearing on this. Ms. Patrice, has anybody signed up? I'm sorry?
I'm Berthelot.
Mr. Berthelot.
My name's Don Berthelot. My property is north adjacent to this property. And I didn't hear what type of business they wanted to put on this property.
Snowball stand.
Snowball stand. This property is about 300 foot from the school. We got a lot of traffic there. I don't know how much business it's going to generate. Traffic lines up in the morning, in the evening, when school lets out on Roddy Road. I can't even get out of my driveway during that time. And then also Roddy Road, if you've been down Roddy Road at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you know what kind of problems that is. I don't know what type of structure they're talking about. And then the parish has setback requirements from Highway 61, 75 feet, Roddy Road, 55 feet, and then you have to be 20 foot from an existing property line, if I read the requirements right. And so I would be against rezoning this property for commercial use in a residential area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berthelot. Anyone else? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this issue. Commissioners, comments, questions, and/or a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
My concern about this is the stated use is that you want to have a snowball stand. And generally speaking, you know, you can kind of consider a snowball stand operating anywhere between 6 to 7 months normally out of the year. And I understand the possible need for it or the desire for it near a school, near the church. But the likelihood of, in my opinion, what I'm worried about is if this area does get rezoned, is the longevity of that snowball stand. Once it's rezoned and the snowball stand possibly doesn't make it, well, now we have a commercial area right there by a church, right there by the school, in a residential area, and that does concern me.
The snowball stand stays there. It does not move. It's not a mobile snowball stand.
Mm-hmm.
But that business could close and something else.
Yeah,
could
that's
move right
what
in.
I'm getting
we're
at,
worried
is
about.
if the business closes, if you fall on hard times or whatnot, or if it's
I
not.
don't think a snowball stand is going to fall on hard times. With the amount of children in the school in that area, I think it's going to do really well. I know the teachers are approving it like crazy that are in that area.
There's no mechanism for I mean, are you planning on having this business open round the clock, every year, all year long?
Yes.
Or just during the school season?
Yes, all year round.
I mean, the problem with rezoning something like this is, smack in the middle of a residentially zoned area. I mean, notwithstanding the school and the church. I mean, this is just a classic case of spot zoning. There's no, there's no rhyme or reason to do this. On the other hand, this snowball stand near school, they ought to be, we don't have a mechanism for to do that on a temporary use or something like that?
No. Yeah, I guess you could do a spud for a snowball stand. Yes.
Does she have the lot requirement for
No,
a spud?
no, it's too small.
doesn't-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd have to be 2 acres or
Yeah,
more.
that's
So,
my
yeah,
other
I was
question.
kidding.
Well-
Yes.
I mean, it's just,
The church is now a school, the one that's on the corner of St. Mark's.
Right.
So it has children there all year round.
well, I understand that, but the point is that, rezoning this property is really would be, it just run contrary to all planning principles, whatever.
One little spot of red and a big sea
Yeah,
of blue.
right, it's all sea of blue and just that one there. I think it sets a bad precedent.
Well, it's, yeah.
Well, and
it would
if,
be subject to a lot
you're,
of challenges.
if your target is the children, then you're also looking at, you're crossing over 2 different highways. Well, heavy travel roads.
And depending on where the entrance is located, whether it's going to be on 621 or Roddy Road.
All right, do we have
Is
a
that one
motion?
of the intersections slated to get a roundabout under the new Move Ascension thing?
I doubt it.
Right there.
Not at that area.
Not under the Move Ascension plan, but the state,
Right.
The state
does
doesn't have.
have a plan to do all of those intersection
Yeah.
roundabouts.
Potentially increasing traffic at that intersection. The kids would have to cross over to get to the snowball stand.
Oh, no, the roundabout's going to, it's going to relieve.
It's going to
traffic.
take it.
Well, it may really, the cars will no longer be stopping to give an opportunity to cross the road.
Right.
I guess is.
So when is this roundabout supposed to take place?
Oh, nobody.
Okay.
That's the mystery question.
When
So,
is Roddy
well-
Road going to get widened to 4 lanes?
well, whether roundabouts are coming or not, or whether, it sounds
We're
like a great
digressing.
idea. It does.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
just don't
asking for
know.
a large building or anything like that.
No, I get it, but the problem is if it gets rezoned, then it's always rezoned that way. And it
Right.
is, we're being asked to put a commercial corridor in a residential area. So, again, whatever we do is just a recommendation to the council, so the council has the ultimate authority on that. I'm not sure, which council district is that, do we know?
Either Dempsey or Benny.
I'm thinking
No, it
maybe
can't be
Todd's.
I'm pretty sure it's Todd's.
Todd.
Yeah.
So Councilman Todd Lambert is your
I
councilman,
think
he'd
that's
be the one to,
District 8, I believe.
9.
9, sorry.
he'd be the one to talk to about that, to get it past the council, but do we, and I don't know, it sounds like we're gonna have a motion
Yeah.
to recommend denial of the zoning change.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend denial.
I have a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, a second, by Mr. Christie, all in favor?
I'm going to second, okay.
It's already been
Aye.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none. I'm sorry. Denial is approved. Staff report?
No report.
Hey,
Motion
Matt,
to
can I make a point of order real quick? I just,
Point of order?
looking at the, sorry, I don't know what
ahead.
else to call it, but looking back at the minutes, because I hadn't looked at them before because I wasn't at the meeting, but I see they also have me voting yay for 2 different items.
Are you got a motion to amend the minutes to take you out of any voting decisions?
Yeah, to make a motion to amend the amended minutes to remove my name as having voted yay and put me as absent on all votes that took place at the April 12 meeting.
You turn into a typical Louisiana politician.
I'm sorry.
Voting for everything even though he's not here. We have
I'm
a-
voting for stuff when I'm not
We have
even here.
we have to have a motion to,
Reconsider.
correct me, Cody, if I'm wrong, we have to have a motion to,
Need a unanimous motion to amend the agenda, and then we need to adopt the
Okay, so I need a motion to amend the agenda to reconsider the minutes at this point.
I'll make the motion.
By Mr. Chasson, second by Mr. Dumas, all in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition, hearing none. Then the second motion by Mr. Chasson is to amend the minutes to remove himself as a voting member on any issues for the meeting he wasn't here. Second by Mr. Bishop, all in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition, hearing none, motion passes. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Dumas.
Second.
Thank you, everybody.